Next on the agenda is the presentation by Mr. Graeme Darcy, Area Manager Hotels for Booking.com. If I can invite over Mr. Darcy to please take over the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for sticking with us and going through such a quick lunch as well. We really appreciate it. I hopefully won't bore you too much with too many numbers and data, as much as that is my desire to do. I'd like to take the opportunity to also thank Mamdou and his team for inviting me to speak, and also for organizing this whole event. I'm going to go through a little bit of the travel trends that we see at Booking.com. A lot of these are global trends that we're seeing, but some of those as well relate to the Maldives itself. It was really nice to see Ibrahim doing the beginning of the Maldives and where it's come to, where it's from. Hopefully we can look at a little bit as to where we see it as a company going forward. And also really nice to see Daniel as well mentioning a lot of things, and as a partner of Booking.com with the Hilton, echoing a lot of the sentiments as well. It seems like they're on the right track. There's going to be a couple of things that support what you've been saying as well on this one. And we didn't plan that, I assure you. At Booking.com, we are great believers in data. We A/B test everything, sometimes to death. Everything that's on the website is always constantly being checked. At any one time, there's roughly about 1,000 A/B testings happening on the site globally. So what you see and what someone else sees might not be exactly the same because of that constant A/B testing. We believe in data incredibly. It's in our DNA, and doesn't matter who you are. We've got a expression called HIPPO. It's the highest income person's opinion, which is not what we believe in Booking.com. Doesn't matter what your salary is or what your position is. If it doesn't convert, it doesn't make sense, and guests and users don't like it, we don't do it. It won't go ahead. Doesn't matter, even if you're the CEO of our company, it won't matter. What we're seeing as well is the wealth of the internet is really changing the travel landscape. More and more people are on their mobile devices, multi-screening, and it's moving from a wealth of information towards people now really wanting experiences. And this is an area that we believe in and are investing in a lot. We want to be helping consumers not only discover the places where they want to stay, actually book the places that they want to stay, but what do they want to do when they're actually in that destination. The Maldives is very well positioned to cater towards that moving trend with the experiences, even in my limited time, that I've seen available here. Part of the changing consumer trends is 24/7. It used to be a case that people would go onto the internet occasionally to find some information. Then nowadays, you'll see most people don't bring their head up from their screens very often. It goes from mobile to now I'm at work on the desktop, back on my mobile commuting on the way back home. Now I'm on my tablet while I'm watching the TV while something else is happening on as well. The multi-screening aspect of the consumer today is something that I think even ourselves underestimate. It's amazing how powerful it is, that technology. Also, there's a shift in consumer psychology. Internet, as I said, was very much about looking for information at the beginning. But people didn't feel comfortable putting their credit card. Then people became comfortable with transacting on the internet. Now that's become very normal, and people are happy to shop on Amazon or wherever it is and book whatever they want from around the world. Now there's even a bigger shift towards people now really genuinely believing what the internet says. Go back 20 years ago, even if you did some research online, you'd still want to talk to someone. You still want to have that tangibility aspect of someone you trust, someone you know, to also endorse that. In the tests we've done, that's now shifted. People now believe reviews, online verified reviews, more than their family and friends in tests. So that's a really major consumer psychology shift because of the power of the internet and the accessibility that they have. Transparency also comes into that. I haven't been in the industry I've been in the industry for quite a considerable time, I would consider, but I also know that a lot of people here have been even longer than myself. You will have seen this better than anything. The way that you have to market your hotels these days, gone are the days of, as long as I make my brochure look good and I've got the right connections with the travel agents, it'll be fine. More and more people can research, they can go online, they see social media, they can ask people, they can find the reviews online, they can look at consumer blogs. So the more transparent you are and the more real, the more people are going to believe in your product and trust it. As I said, already alluded to, the real reviews have those powers. It's why we believe in reviews and put so much in there and send everybody who's ever booked on Booking.com. We encourage you to always review on that as well. And it's only guests that stay, which adds that extra tangibility to really trust it. Also, from a hotelier side of view, you can actually really use that to cater into where your needs are for the property. What are the overall trends? Great, I've got a great review score. But what's my lower one? Is it my Wi-Fi? Is it the cleanliness? It can really help you narrow down in an operational aspect for your properties. And as we say, it's moving to transaction. From transactions towards those experiences. People are wanting to, no longer, it's not a case of just going to a destination or finding a particular hotel. Now when they're there, they want to feel and experience so much more, whether it be going to the local village, trying the local produce. It's a very different travel market today than it was even 10 years ago. Mobile. Mobile is something we've always invested in. We invest in heavily. Everything we test, we also test on the mobile. But even ourselves, we underestimated the power of the mobile. There's some statistics on there as well that actually have increased, so it's even more. We've got countries as well that are even higher on that usage of mobile. For instance, in Japan, by far the majority is done on mobile. It was alluded to earlier in an earlier presentation as well, that there's a generation that just never went onto the laptop. They've been straight onto mobile. There are also countries that are like that as well. India would be a great example, where many, many people are straight onto the mobile. They know their mobiles really well, and they do everything on there. It's their main go-to point for all transactions, information, communication, whatever it might be. Even ourselves, we underestimated. We thought we could make things small, and then it would fit on the mobile. It's not the case. You really, really need to really focus on what is going on there. How easy is it? A couple of clicks. The attention span of today's consumer is tiny. It's very, very small. In the tests we've shown, it actually says the consumer psychology and their attention span on websites and mobile devices is shorter than the attention span of a goldfish. Now, I believe the data we have on that consumer. I don't know who's researching the goldfish data, so I cannot back that one up. I'm not entirely sure. There's also, these are global statistics across 25 different countries that we were taking. Obviously, there's different ones, different countries have different weightings on this one as well. For example, I can be more spontaneous as I book and on the go. People really, across the board, embrace this technology. These are the highest statistics of all of it. They find it easier to book their trip. It's something about 85, 86% of people expect to use a mobile device on their next trip, either be it the research component, the booking component, stay component. They expect to be using their mobile at some point, 85, 86%. There's also ones on here, for instance, we've got 48% of people believe I am able to go on longer vacations now because of that technology. It's a blessing and a curse. I think for some people, we really like it, it's really nice, but then also your boss can contact you 24/7 a day, and they're probably expecting those replies. It's interesting as well, that one, the second graph along, actually changes quite a lot depending on which country. In Japan, it's something about somewhere between 26 to 30% of people believe they can actually take a longer vacation, so the Japanese still believe, no, I have to have my vacation the right amount of time, technology doesn't change anything. Whereas Brazil is about 76 to 80% believe, yes, I can take a longer vacation. Whether or not that's to do with technology or just Brazilians are always happy to go on a longer vacation and are always going to back it up for whatever reason, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting insights towards how it's changing us as consumers, how it's changing businesses, how we operate. I even see today as well, very few people here have actually stopped working necessarily. You jump on the phones, you quickly handle some reservation, you jump on to look at what's going on in your property. It's 24/7. It's not going to stop. And if anything, it's going to get even bigger. One of the other aspects of technology that's been really changing is the long haul, or what used to be the long haul. Now with low-cost carriers opening up, we've got more airlines, transportation. We've also got flights that are becoming quicker and quicker and faster, more comfortable, more open, more transport avenues happening across the board. So it's very different than going back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where it was very much mass group bookings. It was really interesting to see the flights coming into the Maldives as well and how that began and where it is today. You guys that have been in the industry for a long time will have a great idea in terms of how much that long-haul travel has really changed things. It's amazing as well what we see in terms of people going to other countries now for the weekend. You never used to hear that as well. Perhaps not the Maldives, but in a lot of European countries and also within intra-Asia, it's enormous the amount of travel now that will happen on the weekend that never would have happened previously. Pardon me. Echoing as well, I think what Daniel was saying as well, the power of the personal. People really, really want to feel that they're in a place that is chosen for themselves. They've chosen that because they want to look into the local cuisines. They want to go off the unbeaten road. They want to go down and they want to know that that property knows who they are, knows what their needs are, knows what their wants are. That is more extreme than we've ever seen before. They want to be greeted right away at the property. The power that has when someone greets you and they know your name right away, however that might be, has an amazing impact right away. And that first experience that they get walking in the door, whether it be, I would say the first experience probably happens as soon as they arrive and land. So it's also important to work with your tourism bodies and the local authorities as well to ensure that flow through all the way to the hotel guest actually checking in. Sometimes we tend to think it starts at that check-in. It started long before that. It started long before the flight was even taken. It started in the research. It started in the marketing that the companies have been doing for that area. People want to see that you are catering to them, though. They no longer want, if they see a message as being too broad, too open, and not specific and catering to their needs, they're more likely to dismiss it. Oh, pardon. It'll get there eventually. Taking the bold road. Similar to the long-haul flights that have now opened up, but also in terms of technology. Now, everybody has GPS. They've got Uber. They've got review systems, everything, again, on the mobile, linking back to that. They feel more comfortable, more secure to take what would have been a risky trip previously. They want to go to the rural village in the middle of nowhere. But they still want Wi-Fi, and they still want to put it on Instagram, and they still want to get all those likes up there, because that's why they went there in the first place. Otherwise, there's no point going, right? The amazing, and social media is another aspect that is really changing the whole landscape. But they're also looking for other trips. It's amazing how many people will go out and they want to go on a holiday, but they also want to help the local environment in some way. How can we touch base with the local villages? How can we do some community work while we're there? Adding that extra value to them so that they really feel good in their vacation and they can take away the guilty pleasures of relaxing in a lovely overwater bungalow. But I've also gone and I've helped the local village as well, so it's all okay. My karma is balanced out. The more and more we see this being just the start. As devices and technology change and internet gets even better, especially in far-reaching places, it's going to give that comfort levels towards the consumers to go out there even more. While they're traveling, they're even doing it in a much more efficient way. You saw in the earlier stats how many bookings are actually coming through. 50% are happening on the mobile within 48 hours of their stay. That last minute is huge. The amount of people that are now booking a trip and traveling lightly, because long gone, again, people that have worked here for quite some time will remember how much baggage people used to arrive with, getting those transport, getting it all out to the actual property has changed drastically. They've been able to get rid of all their books, because it's on the mobile. They've been ready to get rid of all the documentations, their tickets, their passport. Well, not the passport, that one we still need, but again, I hope the future will change that one, personally. More and more, they can go lighter and lighter. Also with how the airlines work themselves have done that as well. So a lot of, especially the low-cost carriers, will charge extra for the baggage going underneath, so people have become more economical, and they'll only have their carry-on. It's amazing some of the cheap flights that will go out if you only take carry-on. And people are willing to do that, because now it's a much cheaper flight. Now I can go for a shorter period of time which again might link into that length of stay statistics that we were seeing earlier, but they're ready to travel super light. Partly as well, they're even ready to actually, depending on the country they go to. Previously, I was working in Thailand before being based out in Sri Lanka. There were long-haul flights where it was only carry-on and very limited. And Germans took it up like crazy. They went nuts for it. And we were interviewing someone to find out why, and they're like, oh, we just buy all our clothes once we get to Thailand. So once they're actually there, they buy it all, and actually then donate it all as well back to a charity, and then fly back with just the carry-on as well. So that's how light people are traveling now. You can keep everything on this. It's amazing the device and the power that this has right here in my pocket. As I alluded to earlier as well, people want to feel good on their vacation, and that's no longer simply a case of I'm lying on my beach and I can order a pina colada, or I can get a lovely watermelon juice come out fresh, someone's delivered it to me. That felt good, don't get me wrong, that was lovely. But now people, and especially the younger generation, are really looking towards how can they actually feel their, be it karma, be it conscience, be it whatever it is, that I actually feel great about the vacation I actually took. And again, I always link back to social media because they've got to equate that across towards all their friends and all their followers. It's an amazing opportunity this mobile has. Wi-Fi is no longer a basic or an extra, let's say. It's now in demand. It's expected to have Wi-Fi. The new one is, do I have Wi-Fi everywhere? How fast is the speed? Is it really good? And if hoteliers really capitalizing on this, and some of you guys really have, you can use that as your own marketing initiative. The cost and investment in that is worth it as long as they are actually advertising your properties while they're there and showcasing it to the world. It's not free, because obviously you need to pay and ensure that Wi-Fi is there, but that is quite a minimal cost for a sizable amount of marketing. And it's quite targeted marketing, because it's the type of guest that's already staying there that has like-minded followers that are probably also interested in your properties as well. So it really taps into the audience catered to that. The other trend as well that we've seen is eco-friendly is becoming also no longer a specialty, but more a norm. People want to know that the towels are not cleaned every day necessarily, and you can save water on that, that there is solar panel coming through. They want to go even further than that, and that's the area where we're really going to see hotels and properties and resorts that specialize in catering to this, to go the extra yard, whatever that might be. We don't always have the answers. We can tell you what the data trends are going, but we'd happily work with you guys to try to work out what those answers are and A/B test it as we do everything. But yeah, eco-friendly is now, there are different levels, obviously, of eco-friendly, but they want those basics. It's more and more, again, the norm. It's interesting to see some consumers, when they go to a hotelier or a hotel that doesn't have any eco-friendly policy whatsoever, and they're surprised by it. Maldives is another great destination that has started this very early on. It's really good to see them protecting that, ensuring that, and I think it can develop even further as a destination. I've purposely kept my presentation short because Mamdouh warned me there's probably going to be a lot of questions coming towards me as I'm referred to, the Booking.com guy. I'm happy to as well, I hope some of the information here, the goal I had really is to start a conversation, whether it be within yourselves as a network or also to come up and approach me later on as well to dive into those data. Those numbers I find exciting, but are also boring for a lot of people after lunch. I'm happy to go into that in more detail with anyone out here. And with that, I'm happy to open up to the floor for any Q&A. No questions? Oh. Do we have a microphone?
Thank you. It may be more a question to some of the hoteliers here, but isn't Booking.com a bit of a disruptor? The Maldives tourism industry has been dependent for years on tour operators bringing in, signing contracts, filling the rooms, etc. Then the big international brands came in, first with Hilton, then many more brands came in. Their booking system filled it up. So you're sort of a disruptor coming in. How do you handle that in the Maldives? What do you think is your percentage of bookings in Maldives?
Percentage of booking, I mean, again, the tax authority or the authority, the other ones, because I only see my bucket. So often I can't tell you how big the other buckets are. You can get rough estimations on that as well, but...
Yeah, but you know how many room nights there are in the Maldives, so how many of those do you sell in the Maldives?
Going into those specific numbers as well, literally off the top of my head, I would not be able to give it to you. I like, it might sound weird to say, but I like to be referred to as a disruptor. We almost feel so old. We feel like we've been in the industry for some time. We started in 1996, so to be called a disruptor, especially with so many disruptors out there in the market and new players coming in, I'm okay with that. I don't really mind it, and that's okay. A lot of the time, what I find tends to be the biggest clash with the disruptors is just fear of change, I think. From our perspective as well, we have been disrupted as well as hoteliers, as well as countries as well. The likes of, let's say, Airbnb, booming as well. That was a new one that really came in, a market that I think majority of the major OTAs didn't notice value in it, and then Airbnb showed us what's what right away, globally speaking. So it's an area where, but we like that. Now we have to change and we have to adapt according to that. I think I alluded to the fear of change before, and it's that balance of going, what is a fad that we should push back on and it doesn't make sense? And what is a cultural, generational trend shift that we need to adjust to? That can change depending on what you're actually talking about. There are so many new fads out there as well, and this is why we make sure we test everything. It's very easy to go, that's a fantastic new idea, let's do it and implement it right away, but it might just be the craze that's gone in 4 to 6 months. We've had companies that come in as disruptors that are already closed, already. So yeah, I mean, that would be my answer to it as well, is we only go where the demand is. We are a tech company, essentially. That's what we are basically good at. We can do websites very well. We also do online advertising incredibly well. Our PPC team, genius guys, it confuses me when they talk, but I'm glad that they're on the project because I know they're doing a good job. The amount of data that we have, all we do is we're just funneling that demand as much as possible. We're not going to try to predict or change or create the plan for the future. We're just following the trends of what consumers and guests want as much as possible. So yeah, I mean, I take disruptor as a compliment, which might sound a bit weird, but yeah, we feel like one of the old timers in the internet world. We are one of the old timers.
Can I just contradict that statement from the gentleman, please? I completely disagree with that. I think you're actually great supporters, and I'll tell you why. It's all very well for the big boys out there who have their own systems and they generate their own revenues through their own systems, not as much as they would like. We know that. But there are many hotels out there that are privately owned that really need Booking.com, work well with them. Shall I tell you why? Because the tour operators, with all due respect, are great when it's busy, but all of a sudden, when you really need their help, oh, funny. So you go out to Secret Escapes, you go out to Booking.com, you do a deal, brilliant. The booking comes in, then they start crying. Oh, why aren't you giving the deal to us? Well, because you can't fill us up in the first place. So I think what we got to do here is have a little measure. I think Booking has been brilliant. I think we work very well with you and 2 others. But to say you're a disruptor, no, I think you're a fantastic supporter. And I'm glad that you're out there because there are many people here who need you. Whatever these guys say, whether you're a Hyatt, a Hilton, an Intercon, whatever it might be, fine, you got your systems. But the smaller chains out there, without you, with the supply coming on in the Maldives, 23%? What, 15 new hotels opening by the end of the year? Good luck, operators, filling that up, I tell you. So thank you, Booking.com. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the comments. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just got one question here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think I'll just remark on that what Jesper also mentioned. I think a good disruptor is a good, if we can actually market Maldives as a destination. So yeah, but you did actually mention about adaptation. Unlike other countries in Maldives, as Jesper did mention, Maldives actually been the passenger flow was through the tour operators. That was what was there. But then again, unlike other countries in Maldives, the geography of Maldives does involve the transfers, which is the airline is actually playing it. On the Booking.com, I'm not actually, I don't see much provisions actually available for directly for the customers to go and actually book the transfers. Then again, even if they go and book the transfers, the air transfer, still they need the logistics of the speedboat transfer as well. So obviously with the seaplane, it's direct doorstep, but those provisions are not there at the moment. So if you look into, say, flying from London to Bangkok, you get there, you just grab a taxi and you whiz away. But in Maldives, it's not. So what you said about adaptation, yes, I think that will be good. And also, I think if you were able to show some of the numbers as Jesper requested, the growth, the bookings for Maldives, Booking.com, I'm sure Booking.com is doing a great job. But that would actually just give the hoteliers in Maldives here in the GM forum more confidence as well. Not that they have any doubt. I'm sure you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. I mean, on the transfers, I completely agree with you. We need to do a better job on that as well. We don't do it that well. It's one of the first things, again, new to the market that instantly I was looking at, and I see as a huge opportunity to improve in terms of the guest user experience, because it's confusing for a lot of them. We've always been very good at, we always want to put the upfront price, everything, the cost right away, so that there's nothing hidden, it doesn't change as it goes along. Maldives is a little bit of an exception to that because it depends on the per person transfer. You guys know it better than anyone. It's an area where right away it was one I saw as a priority, and one that now we've got a team, not just for the Maldives, but also a few other destinations in the Caribbean and also the Pacific Islands. But the Maldives is the real major case study for it as well, to actually look into how can we incorporate transfers in a more efficient way in terms of the guest user experience. Because it's not great as well. There can be sometimes when, if you've got a single night stay, it's a certain price point, especially maybe you're not your top end properties, but then the transfer cost comes along and it's suddenly doubled or more, which is a huge impact on the conversion and how that guest perceives that whole process has gone forward. I agree completely, we need to do vast improvements on it. I'm pleased at least now that we now have a team in Amsterdam, the developers, all those smart guys with higher pay grades than me, are now looking at it and trying to see what can we actually do around that to improve the whole experience on transfers. Completely agree with you.
Just one more as well. You did actually mention about the review as well, yeah? At the moment, the resort transfers, we get, as an airline, we get the booking through the resorts. So even if there's actually any review that's related to the transfer or the hotel experience, to correctly reflect whether it was related to the transfer experience or the hotel experience or at the airport, unless, because the bookings comes through the hotel. So as an airline, we really do not know, we don't want the resorts to get blamed if there's an issue with the transfer. So it would actually, the airlines would actually get better reviews, direct reviews from the client, if we have some provisions available on your website for that as well, because...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it won't be a perfect world, though, as well. I mean, you know what it's like in hoteliers. A guest goes out to a restaurant outside, puts them in a bad mood, they come back and they're upset with your staff. You don't control that restaurant, it's outside the property, but it's amazing what can impact someone's opinion of a destination, a place, a stay, that maybe had nothing to do with the destination or the actual property itself. But yeah, well, there definitely can be improvements across that in terms of how do we see it. Whether or not we split it out, I don't have the answers. What we'll do is we'll test lots of different methodologies on it and see which one actually works the best and which one gets the best consumer activity happening on the websites. Yeah, in terms of perfectly splitting out the reviews across the board, it's also a balancing act. Yes, we want to do that, but also you don't consumers' attention span, like I say, will go very fast. So if we send them out, can you please review this, this, and this? They'll probably dismiss all the reviews and then don't get anything as well. So it's something we'll constantly test and try to improve on. But yeah, I agree. It's amazing. Even like I was saying earlier, landing at the airport, the impact that can have. I was based in Phuket previously, and now they've got the newer airport as well. It's a bit nicer, but even the previous one, right away, who are these taxis? Why are they charging me so much? What's going on? There's no Uber in Phuket because they've kept it out, so you can't even jump onto that. That was impacting guest experience right away when they arrive at hotels and our partners' properties. So we also tried to talk to the authorities and the Airlines Association in Thailand to go, hey guys, as much as possible, can you improve on this? The impact of a taxi and someone feeling ripped off is that first impression of a destination, but also reflects on a lot of the properties as well. So they've jumped onto that bandwagon too to go, yeah, they need to improve that across the board. We will always try to touch base across the process, the whole guest experience really, be it not only from transfers as well. We're looking into things like, can we do even more within the destination? Can we help them organizing, whether it be scuba diving trips or whatever it might be? If the property can't facilitate that themselves, how can we support that? Guests and consumers want to do it all, and as much as possible, like I say, we're going to try to put it on the mobile so that they can just book it there right away, and that they don't need a paper ticket. They just show their mobile right away. Because again, even when you're on a destination, if you suddenly book something and you need to print off the receipt or a voucher to show it, people will stop. Then they go, all right, never mind, I'm going to go somewhere else and think about it. But yeah, as much as possible, we are going to move in towards that experience, what we call GEN, the Global Experience Marketplace, to try to do as much as possible within that space. Yeah. Yep.
So what advice do you have for the destination, given there's a potential with the new airport to welcome millions of additional visitors every year?
Okay. The question was just, what advice do I have for the destination with the new airport? I think it's good. I think be adaptable. Be adaptable. Find your it's basic, it's unique selling point. Why is it that people are coming here over anywhere else? I know a lot of the time there's a concern of going, oh, there's so much supply happening, but that demand's going to pick up as well. It's a balancing curve that I've never found it perfectly match anywhere that I've been yet, but it's a constant one that we've got to adapt to and adjust to. There'll always be, the more people coming in creates higher demand. Obviously, that's bigger demand coming through, but even if the segments aren't one that match your hotel, those consumers are now clicking, they're viewing, and they're looking at those areas. Perhaps they're not staying at your property this time, but they went there, they stayed at a certain property, they really like the destination, they can come back again as well. So it's about staying true to your core beliefs and your core selling points. Why is it that someone should be staying at my property above any others? The hardest thing, I think, for that, online at least, is showing that to people without saying it in words, because people don't read. It's the hardest one that we have. Put anything in important information, they're not going to read it. Price point is definitely the top one. Photos across the board, they're really paying attention. Can you sell your story of your property with photos? That is the ideal way, because that's how they're viewing it. And as high resolution as possible, because they're zooming in on their iPad, and it's amazing the picture and quality that they can get these days. Location is another big factor. Not just the destination itself, but where are you located within whatever the experiences are that they want to have in that destination. Yeah, so the next one after that is reviews coming into it. There can actually be some times where I've had hoteliers go, well, I want a perfect 10. I'm not sure. Great if you do have a perfect 10, it's fantastic. But it's always that matching of expectations to reality. As soon as you've got a 10, boom, you've set those expectations up high. So you got to back it up so much in terms of the level of service that you give at the property to ensure that that's there. Instantly, I always say as well, 5-star properties, as soon as they hear 5-star, top reviews, without them doing anything, researching anything, seeing anything in the property or talking to anyone, they instantly now have a higher expectation from you, just based on that alone. And they also read those reviews quite delicately. So we even change the review, so what you see as one review will not be what someone else sees. For instance, if someone's from Australia coming to book in the Maldives, we will put reviews from Australians with comments up first over someone from Brazil, let's say, because those reviews are more relevant to that person that was coming in terms of when they're actually clicking into the reviews overall. The score doesn't change. So we really want to cater that towards the clientele that are looking at it. And we're going even more further than that in terms of the personalization. I know there's a lot of talk, especially in Europe as well at the moment, about how much people track what's online with, let's look at Facebook recently in the US as well with Congress, where he was brought in, Mark Zuckerberg, to answer a lot of different questions from people that don't really understand the internet, it seems. It's amazing what we track whatever we can. But you can always clear your cookies and then it's gone. But even a brand new user, we already know information about you. We know right away, all right, what IP address are they using it from? So that's where they're based. What language are they choosing when they go into that? What currency have they chosen up the top? All of this is without them even, they've just come onto the website and we know all of this right away. So you can instantly cater going, oh, okay, I know people from Australia, however, that speak Bahasa, for example, tend to be looking at this. I want to cater and show them properties that are relevant to them. That way as well, you get really targeted marketing happening for your properties on our marketplace. Yeah. In terms of actually the Maldives itself, I think it's a great thing. I mean, I would open up supply as much as possible is my great belief. Open up supply, then builds on the demand. The one risk you don't ever want to have is that you've got so much demand coming, but you cannot cater to it. That is a really, really big risk in a lot of places as well, because suddenly people go elsewhere. They find the other destination that is catering to their needs and their wants, and that's going to suddenly build up the hype for wherever that might be. Yeah. So I think it's great. The more transportation, in this case with the Maldives, the more we can do on transfers with boats, the more we can do with airlines. In other countries, I would say trains and cars, et cetera, but here, yeah, boats, speedboats. I look forward to the first Uber boat. I don't know if they're actually going to do that, but that would be interesting to see. Yeah, I think it's a good thing overall.
I have a question on rate parity. The whole industry is always talking about rate parity. We're spending a substantial amount to keep the rate on rate parity, but I must say not Booking.com, but we're finding more and more competition from other online OTAs who get rates from everywhere and undercuts wherever possible. And I'd like to have your view if the future will continue with rate parity or if you will see that going away.
Yeah, I don't see it going away. The reason I don't see it going away is linking back to earlier where transparency is king. Meta searches have changed a lot. So right away, someone can go on site and they don't necessarily come to Booking. They might go to Trivago, TripAdvisor, any meta search. Look at all these different price points. And as good as Booking.com, or I'm biased obviously, but as good as we think we are, we're not so good that people are going to book us and pay more simply because they like us. It's not going to happen. I believe as much as possible that you have consistent pricing online, publicly viewable, and then targeted pricing for certain campaigns, closed user groups, whatever it might be. I agree with that, and using your channels. The one area that I think has really changed a lot recently is the people that used to be traditionally offline and getting offline rates, which is fine, and I'm okay with that, makes sense, have brought those offline rates online, which I'm also okay with them changing. They recognize what's happening in the consumer landscape. If I ran those businesses, I would do the same. I would also be going online. The thing where I guess I think it's a little bit of a bias is they're still playing by the offline rules in the online space. There's no longer the packaged component coming into it. It's literally room rate across the board, and sometimes those are wholesaler rates now coming public. It's what's happening in there. I don't see it going away. I'm a great believer in the fact that people want to go on and they want to see that room is worth that much and have that assurance. As soon as they see a range of prices, a whole bunch of uncertainty starts happening in the consumer's mind. They go, okay, is that one so cheap because it's not real or I don't know that website? Is that one more expensive because they're ripping me off? What is the value of that room? And it can be extreme differences as well. And I know it happens quite a bit in the Maldives as well from the statistics I see. We still strong believers in it. We don't want to play around with people's prices. As I'm sure everyone here will attest, we won't undercut your price. When you send it to us, the reason my account managers and everyone calls you up so much is that we want you to change it because we recognize that that is strong behavior. We also think it's good, I mean, it's amazing, even if I took Booking.com aside, the one thing I don't understand is how you guys, or some properties, will let another website undercut their own brand. That's your brand. You want them coming to you. I'm an ex-hotelier. I don't argue against going direct to a hotel website. That would be kind of hypocritical of me. I used to encourage it myself. But the fact that they'll even undercut your own website, take Booking.com out of the equation. Even then, I don't agree with it. So no, I don't see it going away for a long time. I wish we could control it more. But all we can do is try to educate the market, talk to you guys, try to convince you to help find those players, and I know it can sometimes be hard. But more and more, I think it's going to be, I've never seen a price war where it's essentially everyone trying to beat everyone else and going down. I see it as a price war to the bottom. There's going to be no winners. Perhaps the consumer, and this is where I should probably take the guest side of things, they're going to get super cheap deals when they really shouldn't be. There's no reason for it. Yeah, I don't see price parity going away for quite some time. We're great believers in it.
Yeah, my question is based on two things. First is something that I was in the audience last month at the ITP convention, the ITP CEO's interview with your CEO, Gillian. Firstly, congratulations for hitting 100 billion market cap. I think that is twice the size of hotel chains like Marriott. So clearly, Booking Holdings today is a huge force, and I believe it's a huge force in the Maldives as well. So firstly, my request is to help our tourism board or Ministry of Tourism with the data that you have. And I think Gillian said something on the lines that 2/3 of the business that you have on your website is bed and breakfast or towards independent hotels. So my question is, in the Maldivian tourism spectrum, what is the market share, if you may share, the resorts or the guest houses? Because when you search today in Booking.com, you first see the guest houses a lot. Yeah. I'm sure because of the commission rates and whatnot. But what sort of a market share do you have? Like Gillian said, 2/3 is independent hotels or bed and breakfast.
2/3 of it would be the supply, not in the bookings yet. And this is a brand thing from Booking.com. I even have talked to a couple of hoteliers here and mentioned, oh yeah, we list guest houses and B&B, and they're surprised. They use us for hotels and resorts, and that's also generally in consumers as well. So yeah, 2/3 of the supply is now within what we call, I guess, the home space, or guest houses, B&B, et cetera, but not 2/3 of the revenue coming through yet. So yeah, it's a growing segment. As I say, the only reason we're in that space is because it's where the consumers are going. It's what they're looking for more and more. We have Airbnb to thank for that. Thank you, Airbnb. They've changed how people think about it. They're willing to stay at houses. Nowadays, we say people are no longer, they want to stay at a place that feels more than home. It's home, but it's more than that. It's home, but with luxury service. It's home, but the kids are quiet. It's home, comforts, but everything is catered to, everything is done. It works, it's just what the consumers are demanding more and more. So we're always going to be in the space that they're looking for. And they're looking for unique stays as well. We've even got things like one of the One Direction singers buses that tours around. You can now stay in that if you want to. Those kind of weird, unique, quirky things as well. They're not going to be, well, maybe in the future, you never know, never say never, but they're not going to be the major drivers. Our core business is still really with the hotels and resorts, but it's a space that we're watching very closely. We're always a great believer in put the supply in there. We've noticed that they want the supply, so we'll put the supply there, and then we'll see how the numbers actually go. It's interesting as well in the Maldives, coming out here. I've stayed at a few properties where I'm told it's a guest house, but for the life of me, in no other country would that be a guest house. The classification, again, my first day in the Maldives was yesterday, so forgive my ignorance on this one, but I was already talking to my team going, how is this a guest house? It can kind of confuse me on that. So it's a space that I think will keep evolving over the next couple of years, really. And it's a different segment than the audience that resorts and hotels are looking for. They're different people. It's a different desire and unique selling point that they're actually looking for. It's going to be tough for the resorts and hotels, though, because more and more of these B&Bs and guest houses are offering facilities that were traditionally the domain of hotels. It's amazing how many guest houses will now offer spa treatments. They now offer, I've got all the in-room amenities as well. That used to never happen at a guest house, or at least never any guest house I ever stayed in the past. More and more they're getting used to that and changing towards what the consumers are demanding and wanting. But that's okay. It's just about finding, again, what is the selling point of my resort, my property, so that I can show why it's in that space. One of the other ones that's confused me as well in terms of Maldives, I also hear aspects around guest house and B&B lowering down the ADR. In other countries I've seen, they're some of the highest ADRs around that we have. Look at, for instance, China. China is booming across the globe. They're traveling everywhere, especially within intra-Asia. They're one of the highest ADR markets that we have. And they're looking for those kind of unique stays, those unique special places to go. That can be a guest house as well. I mean, some of the areas, again, I'm not speaking for the Maldives in this case. I'd have to double check my numbers and look at it. But in some cases, our guest house segment has a higher ADR than the hotel one. Because also if you're including, let's say, villas in that component too, which can be, depending if it's an independent villa or a part of a chain, people look at it very differently as well. But some of our highest ADR properties, even in south of Thailand where I was previously, it's coming from that segment. So they are actually boosting up the ADR overall, while the hotels are the playing more with rate and also have less control of their rate. The meta searches are not on the guest houses yet. They've got a set price across the board. It's quite stable, actually, when we look at Parity, linking back to that. They don't have the distribution channels that are built up over years that now they need to kind of look at and control. Yeah, more and more it's happening with the hoteliers that have trouble with that. If there's no other questions, I'd like to thank you all for the time. I really appreciate you letting me take up your time, your valuable time, and thank you, Mambu, for inviting me. Appreciate it.